What is up, YouTube? Welcome to my first official devlog for Project Sonic Adventure XD. If you haven't watched my first video, then you probably aren't familiar with the premise of the development log series. Basically, I'm working on creating a Sonic fan game that takes after the story of Season 3 of Sonic X's Meta-Rex Saga. The goal is basically just to make a Sonic Adventure 3. What is going to make this game different, though, is that it will be combining elements of the Sonic Adventure gameplay style with the combat style of, say, a JRPG or the Dark Souls games, for example. Sonic Frontiers took a grand step in this direction, but I wanted to take a different approach towards Sonic's combat system. But for today, I'll just be showcasing the model that I made that we'll be using inside the game. If you're curious, I use CSP for the illustrative process of this, and I use Blender 3D for the 3D modeling. And before we actually start, I guess we need to... Sorry. I guess we need to address the great delay for this video's upload. And we'll get to that. But first, we hit 34 subscribers. Yeah, very small flex. Now, I don't know about you, but this is a big deal for me. It was super taxing trying to manage college, work, and this at the same time. Now I can finally dedicate some time to this project. So without further delay, let's just jump right into it. I think Sonic definitely thrives more when the stretchy and cartoony bend of the character is embraced. My model takes more inspiration from the Sonic Adventure models, as they're a little more cartoony than the more mainstream models we have today. But I wanted to, of course, innovate on them because, you know, sometimes these models could look a little, Compared to the modern Sonic models, my Sonic has somewhat of a similar body shape. The eye shape I tried to make less ovular than the modern Sonic model and even more rounded. And for the hands, I retopologized the ones that I ripped from a Sonic Unleashed model just to make it easier to bone influence later on. The huge step that I took towards differentiating my Sonic's model was the shoes. I decided to go for the Archie Sonic comic style of the shoe where he had the cool grip pattern on the bottom. I had actually created this model using a flat plane, recreated the pattern and just extruded upwards. This took a lot of cutting into the mesh to get the proper alignments for the shoe and match the pattern, but it still came out pretty good, I'd say. I made sure that this part near the heel was more exposed and widened at the bottom to more resemble the soap shoes that Sonic wore in Sonic Adventure 2, which had helped him in rail grinding, which was pretty cool. Some of the things in the final model ended up pulling away from the reference. For example, I had pulled the spines down a bit more to make it seem as though Sonic spines had more drag to them like how they were in the Adventures model. And for the mouth, I had completely remodeled it. Making the mouth was the most infuriating part of this whole process, because Sonic is a cartoon character. I had to put into consideration the way that his mouth moves, as well as if it can be moved across the mesh, or I guess his muzzle you'd call it. If you watch the cutscenes from Sonic games, you can see that the rig is built so that Sonic's mouth can appear anywhere across his muzzle. Of course, the model used in animations are not the same as the one used in games, which are more simplified for obvious reasons. For the sake of prolonging the disappearance of my eyebrows, the mouth will just be staying on the right side of Sonic's face. For the textures, I actually planned for this game to be in a cel-shaded style similar to Breath of the Wild, but I'll be applying the cel-shaded style when I put it in the engine because transferring the texture data from Blender to Unreal is not as versatile as I thought it was. And trust me, I tried. I went digging all across the internet.
Textures need to be plugged into the principal shader directly.
So we're gonna have to make it work with those rules. Also, here's some experimental renders I'd made early on in development using Blender's texture system to kind of feel out what Sonic would look like in this style. The rig in progress was nothing crazy, but it did take a long time. I wanted Sonic to have a more bendy limbs on the rig. I'm super satisfied with how this came out actually. Here's some test animations that I had for, as you know, just some ideas for what his runs could look like in the game. It's not by any means perfect. In retrospect, I'd actually been working on this model for about 2 years, learning everything and how to do it. You know, obviously minus school and work. I guess almost over a year technically. I imagine that actually developing the logic for this game is actually going to be pretty tough. I'm a CS major in college, so aside from teaching myself, I'm hoping that I get something valuable out of that. But making a video game will be no easy task, especially when you're doing it by yourself. It's gonna take patience, but this is something I want to see through, so I'm gonna put in the work. I'm open to any suggestions in regard to the model, any criticism, critiques. I'll be working on animations for the next video to try and get him in the engine for the next devlog. I would like to thank a YouTuber known as Yurei the Blender Magus. His how to create Sonic tutorial really helped teach me a lot about creating this complicated cartoony character in 3D. I would also like to thank CG Dive for his great tutorials, which really helped me put together my rig for Sonic and make the bendy bones possible for the rig. Then I'd also like to thank, let me try not to butcher his name, Kama Kayanja? Sorry if I butchered that. Yeah, this guy, his Sonic model was this huge inspiration for my Sonic model coming together. He worked on this thing that I referenced, his HD Hero Sonic model, which was super sick and pretty cool. Yeah, he's super awesome guy. But that's it. Thank you for sticking around. If you liked the video, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Sorry for the delay on the upload. I'm still trying to get into the flow of making videos for these vlogs, whilst also trying to learn how to make a video game at the same time. So it's a lot. I'll figure it out as I go though, and get it more structured and consistent. Alright, I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.